What's up, you guys? It's Danae with All Things Pickleball, and today I'm coming at you with a video on how to become a pickleball coach. In this video, I'm going to talk about where to start. I'm going to talk about certifications, things that you'll need in addition to certifications, as well as things to consider before you start coaching. Let's get into it. The first certification that I'm going to talk about is the USTA Pickleball certification. Now, you might not know what this acronym is, especially if you are not from a tennis background, but this is a certification specifically for tennis professionals that already have a USTA certification looking to add a pickleball certification on top of that. So a quick overview of the cost for this is really it's just $299, but remember you have to have a current certification with the USPTA in order to qualify for this. So if you don't have that certification anyway, this probably isn't your route to go. The next certification I want to talk about is the PPR certification. So PPR stands for the Professional Pickleball Registry, and this actually is the certification that I specifically went through when I was getting certified to become a pickleball coach. Now, I personally think it's the best. Just going through their program and the whole education part of it, as well as the testing, I felt like it really prepared me super well for going on to coaching after getting certified. It is the USAPA's official registration and education certification. Basically, the PPR cert is very reputable among all teaching certs here in at least the United States. That being said, the PPR does cost a good amount of money. So initial membership for USA Pickleball costs $20, the PPR membership costs $177, and the workshop is an additional $147, all coming out to about $344 for the whole certification. So that's a little quick overview on the PPR certification. If you guys are interested in hearing more about my specific experience getting my PPR cert, like what it looked like, what it entailed, all that stuff, I'd love to do a video on it if people are interested. So if you're interested in that, please comment below and let me know. The last cert that I'm going to touch on in this video is the IPTPA certification. So the cost for this certification also racks up. Program fee is $150, Teach the Teacher workshop is $200, annual dues $140, exam $100, all coming out to $590. So now that you've gotten certified, you've gotten the education, you've done the testing, you've passed everything, now what? Well, the next thing that you're gonna want to get is general liability insurance. Now, if you've never done a coaching job before, you probably don't know what this is. Basically, what that does is it protects you from legal fees if something happens to your clients while coaching. So whether there's an injury or basically anything happens, you're not held liable because of your general liability insurance. Again, it's something that you need to have. You really can't get around it, and you really don't want to go around it. So that's something to look into. Okay, so now you've got your certification, you're insured. Now what? Now there are a couple things to consider going from here. So there are basically what I would say is two options for you as a coach once you become certified and insured. And one is working for like a private organization. So that would be like your country clubs, or if your city has a chicken and pickle, or a pickleball specific facility, or a tennis or racket sports facility. A lot of these are privately owned businesses and will typically look to hire certified pickleball professionals. So there's so many pros to this, and there's also some cons. So some pros to working for a private business as a pickleball coach or pickleball instructor would be, one, you have way more access to equipment. When I was working as a pickleball instructor for a country club, they provided the balls, they provided the paddles, they had, water for everybody. I mean, it was just really nice that I didn't have to lug everything around to all my clinics and lessons, and I could host clinics with people, 12 people that never play pickleball because I have 12 extra paddles lying around that I can have them use. So that's a really big perk to working for a private kind of club or private business. Again, another one is huge. It's the facility space. So typically there's a booking system. I don't have to worry about, okay, are people going to be on the courts because I'm booking them out ahead of time. It's like way less of a headache. Another huge perk to working for a privately owned facility is typically they already have a clientele base to pick from and to advertise to. So when I worked at a country club, it was great because I already had access to all of these members, and it was really easy to advertise and shoot things out via email because I used basically their resources and their emails and their population to advertise to. So it was really a lot easier to get clients going and get clinics running and get programs up weekly because I had access to all of those members. But that being said, there are some cons to working under a private club. So one of that being, your pay does get cut. So when I was working for a country club, I wonder if I can say this legally. Basically, the club takes a cut out of every paycheck because obviously they're employing you and all that stuff. That's what I'll say. Although it's however much for a lesson, a good percentage of that is going to the club, if that makes sense. And sometimes they'll pay you hourly on top of that. It really just depends on where you're working. But that's also, a con to consider. Another con to consider is, of course, you might have to have not as much freedom in your programming. Maybe they can only book so many courts out for you, or maybe there's only so much space, or there's just other hoops that you have to jump through. You really don't have like full freedom to do whatever you want whenever you want. Oh, and another con that I forgot to mention here is typically when you work for a private club or entity, they make you sign a non-compete, or it's required to sign a non-compete, which basically means that you are only allowed to teach their members or people under their umbrella or their programming. You can't go out and coach outside of that, which makes sense because again, you're using their resources, you're their person, then that's something to really consider if you're thinking about signing on with a private business to coach. Then there's the other option, which is coaching independently. Now there's a lot that goes into this, and I think actually things might be different in every location. There could be state stipulations, but I'm going to do my best to kind of give you a little bit of an overview. So coaching independently. Now, I have also done this, just basically worked independent, haven't been under any type of umbrella, and there are some pros and there are also some cons. So let's go with the pros first. So the pros are basically you really do have so much freedom. You can make your own schedule. You can, host however many clinics you want. You can host however many lessons you want. You get to choose your prices. You get to keep all of the paycheck besides what you have to take out for taxes. And you really can choose to market to anybody and everybody. So in that sense, there really is so much freedom. However, there are a lot of things to consider on the con side. If you're thinking about coaching independently, some of the things you have to really think about, I think maybe the biggest one might be facility space. So if you're coaching independently, you probably are not going to be able to coach at a country club or privately owned pickleball court because guess what? They're going to want you to be under their umbrella. Really, that limits you to your own private pickleball court, which if you have one of those, then have at it. Like, you are one of the few very, very lucky people, and I'm very envious. Now, if you don't have your own private pickleball court, then that leaves you to really having to use public parks or public space. This gets really tricky, honestly, legally, because I shouldn't say a lot, in my experience, certain cities have stipulations on on using their public spaces for commercial use because you are technically running a business out of that public space. That's something you really need to consider is, okay, what kind of hoops do you need to jump through? Is the city going to want to take a cut? Those are all things that you have to figure out. Also, are you opening an LLC or are you just operating as a sole proprietor? There's like tons of stuff legally that you're gonna have to really iron out in order to do just completely free on your own independent coaching. I'm not saying it can't be done, but there are a lot of hoops that you have to consider. That being said, if you are teaching in a public space and you get everything ironed out with your city, now you have to figure out how to quote unquote book your space. Because guess what? You can't really book a public space. Like, public parks don't work like that. When I started coaching independently, I had to really figure out, okay, when are times that I can do lessons where there are actually court space and courts available. That's really, really tricky to kind of figure out and something that you definitely have to consider. Some of the other things that you'll have to think about are even just equipment and budget. Like, it's not cheap, to buy a bunch of paddles and have 12 extra paddles on hand if you want to run a beginner clinic. Ball caddies, maybe you have to buy portable nets. Like, there's a lot of actually equipment that is really, really helpful. You definitely need a little bit of money to get started. So that's just another thing to think about when you're considering, okay, should I coach independently or should I, go under the covering of a business? So those are really kind of the main things that I would iron out are what certification are you getting? Which general liability insurance plan are you gonna get on? And then are you gonna go completely independent or are you going to go under the covering of a business? Those are really typically the three things that I would say you either need to have or need to figure out when becoming a pickleball coach. Now, if you guys have any questions about the process of becoming a pickleball coach, what the certifications were like, or what equipment you feel like people need, or starting a pickleball program from scratch, those are all things that I've done and would love to share about my experience. I looked at YouTube and I didn't see much when I was researching this, so I really hope that this is really helpful for you guys. If it is, go ahead, please give me a thumbs up. That really supports my channel, and make sure that you hit the subscribe button. Again, comment down below anything else that you want to see from me, and I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you guys so much for watching. It means a lot if you hit the subscribe button. That really supports my channel. And don't forget to check the description below for any discounts. I'll see you guys in the next one.